Guys, welcome back. How are you doing? Different setup today, huh? For those of you who still watch these things, which I guess some of you still do. The last SDHO 46 was, I believe, recorded on January 4th, even though you probably just saw it like maybe a week or two ago. And this one is actually being recorded on February 13th. So it's been a while. I don't know, I guess I needed a break, but I also made like a lot of SDHOs in December into early January. And I basically have just been kind of like taking my time, editing them, not rushing or anything. And for whatever reason, I just haven't really... It's almost like there was like a whole category of Ableton things, which is every single SDHO you've seen, you know, over the last, I don't know, 8, where like I'll get these blocks and like after I do one, then a day or two will go by and then I'll be like, oh, you gotta do Wavetable, which we're doing Wavetable today, and probably just Wavetable. So if you came here for the Wavetable, yeah, stay here for the Wavetable, and probably a lot of talking, because I don't just feel like doing Wavetable, I also feel like talking about it, which, you know, if all I felt like doing was doing Wavetable, I would just do it. But yeah, so I've been doing a little bit less Ableton, and to be honest, even a little bit less of like my 3D art stuff. So I've been realizing that I need to get back to more creative stuff, and I can't believe I kind of just haven't been doing it. So yeah, I really want to get Wavetable, so I'm gonna open up a MIDI track. Sorry if it seems like I'm like dried out, it's because I just took a shower. And yeah, can get really dried out. Smash a like if you get dried out after you take a shower. Yeah, so we've got this nice looking MIDI track here, and we're gonna come into our instruments, if you didn't already know, and we are going to drop the Wavetable. And I'll be honest, I haven't used the Wavetable in a while, and I love it. It's awesome. And it does some really cool things. It's the most powerful synthesizer that Ableton has. I mean, the sampler is pretty amazing, but like Wavetable, if you really look at how sound is made in Operator, which is the FM synth, and which can also do subtractive, but then also analog, which is the subtractive synth, and there's pretty much just 3 types of synthesis. I mean, you could be all like, whoa, you know, but for the most part, it's either a Wavetable synthesizer, subtractive synthesizer, FM synthesizer, or, you know, to be honest, if we really went deep, and we've done this on other ones, you know, Wavetable can pretty much just do all 3, you know. But what I noticed when I was making all the last couple of videos, or especially the ones that I did Operator and Analog, I really enjoy using them, even though they're not as like feature robust as Wavetable synthesizer. And it's crazy because around that time, I like opened up Wavetable a few times, and I just did not like any of the sounds that I made, and I was like, wow, I guess I don't really know Wavetable that well. But that turned out to be a big lie, because later on I like opened the projects, I'm like, oh, these sounds are amazing. So I don't know what it was. Maybe I just had to like just get to know Wavetable better, who knows. But I haven't used it in a long time. I mean, honestly, I don't know, early January, maybe last year. And it doesn't really matter, because I feel like I just want to use Wavetable, and I want to use it with you guys, hanging out, and just cover some really cool things, and hopefully, if anything, make Wavetable and Wavetable synthesis what it does. Ableton has a good way of like trying to label things, instruments, and audio devices and things that's like kind of true to what it is. And so yeah, let's start with Wavetable. And it starts you off here with just a sine wave, and so you know, it's a good place to start because most synthesis methods start with a sine wave. And then depending on what else you need, you could kind of stick there. So you'll also see that we've got this, and maybe I should open this up here. And can I get all of these on here? Do I need all of these on here? Because I want to be able to click around in here. Well, why don't we just do this for the time being? And if you close this triangle, if you go over here to the envelopes and the LFOs, it's just putting them up there. And to be honest, I don't use that view enough, which shame on me. Shame on me for taking a shower. And it wasn't because I was trying to get all like spiffed up and pretty for you guys. If you can see, I dress like a homeless man. I don't like to shop. That's why. I've got good style. Like anything I do, I'm like an artist with it. But like, I don't know, man. I started hating shopping for clothes because it was a big pain in the ass. And that's even people are like, hey, you know, just buy some things on Amazon, you know, like, you know, or online. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's like an energy block. I just don't want anything to do with it. By the way, get some NFTs to support me. Support a teacher, artist, packaging them all up. Cryptocurrency enthusiast. I love it. The blockchain technology. All right, let's get into some wavetable here. So don't let these sections fool you up here. Right now, just pretend envelope 2 and envelope 3 don't exist, because they don't exist right now. For our purposes in these early stages. LFO1, LFO2, don't worry about them. They don't exist right now. They're just here to be like, ooh, we're here. You can play with us, and if you want, but you don't have to. And if you think that you gotta learn all of us, then you're not going to have a good time. That's why we got this matrix setting down here. So you don't have to worry about MPE if you're not like from the future and use MPE, which I really should. If you want me to talk about MPE, we can. MIDI you will use, especially when you want to route these velocities. And if you're slick enough to want to key map, I forget, I hope I'm saying it right. And I actually like this random over here. I totally forgot it was here because I never look at MIDI unless I'm like programming a velocity amount. But then I saw random there, and like, yeah, I love randomness. So this matrix, you can pretty much stay in the matrix, or perhaps exit the damn matrix. But what do you mean? The Matrix is a movie. It's actually a documentary of real life. Turns out conspiracy theorists are pretty much like 50-0 right now. Anyways, let's hopefully that didn't trigger anybody. So anyways, yeah, so if you don't have any amounts in any of these categories, nothing's happening except an amp. An amp right here, no matter what waveform you have, this amp's gonna work. You don't even have to have a thing assigned. So for instance, if we come over here to the amp envelope and we lower it a lot, okay, so we've got no sustain. And again, with envelopes, you're always gonna have attack, decay, sustain, release. I'm sure you guys probably know about that, but I'm sure I have people who maybe stumbled upon my channel, maybe aren't as in-depth with Ableton, and they're like, dude, the only thing I wanna know is like really good sound design, or like, yeah, this guy's interesting, I like Ableton, I'm along for the ride. So no sustain. Again, amp, anytime you see amp, it's volume, so don't worry. It's like, I don't know why they don't use volume. Probably because on a lot of the synthesizers they just called it amplitude, or maybe that's like the technical way of the people who design these things, that's what they were calling them. So amplitude, it sounds cool. The amp envelope, amp. So if we have a small decay, shorter sound, wonderful. Wow, I haven't said wonderful in a long time. I'm just going to keep the sustain up, so when you hit a note, and if I hit a note and release it, and by the way, I'm playing my laptop keyboard, which if you go up here and click on this, you will get it. If you don't and you click notes, nothing will happen. So do that. It would be nice if I played like a little MIDI keyboard over here, but like I have to turn my head to look at it. And when I'm designing these sounds and I'm playing notes, there's really like no other way that doesn't hurt my neck or head or everything. And to be honest, I actually really like using these. So if you never... I remember watching Ableton tutorials back in the day, and they said they were playing the keyboard, which I guess is called the QWERTY keyboard. And I was like, that's so awful. Why would you do that? And then I realized, oh, there's actually very good reasons, especially if you make this. So we're going to keep this up high, play with the release. So master volumes over here. It sounds loud to me, but probably doesn't for you. So I'm going to just change a lot of these things, because as soon as I start adding harmonics, it's going to, and actually maybe I want to get off this view because I think it's actually better. And again, if I shut that and I come over here to, where are we? Mod sources, you can get them right here. I realized it's much... what I've realized is over like the last 10 SDHOs, pretty much when I do damn near anything, I have the spectrum here, because like it helps you visualize it. And to be honest, I think we would be losing out if we didn't have this display up here. So I'm going to open that up. By the way, when I play mine and the notes go down and they don't hover there, that's because I have max turned off. If you turn on max, and by the way, each time you tap in here, it like removes what's there. So, oh, it's there, you know, this is playing a 333 note, you know, when you tap, it goes away. I like to turn off max because when I'm playing a lot of things, I don't like them hanging up. I thought I would just tell you that because I really know Ableton a lot. It's been almost, it's basically my 10-year anniversary with Ableton. So, I was about to say thank you, and then I'm like, this doesn't sound right, you know? So anyways, sine wave. What is sine wave? Just one note, which is called the fundamental. That's the pitch. And so we have all of these wave shapes. And what you do is if you notice, we've got our best buddies, saw wave and square wave, and it can be pretty loud and abrasive. Yeah, and so what do we have here? Just like in all the other ones, we have a filter frequency, so we can take some of the frequencies off. And I'm going to come down here to semitones. I'm going to push shift down arrow, because whenever you start designing sounds, and again, you might have like a full big keyboard, so like, you know, it's different, because right now I have like 1 octave on here. So like the default octave is like up at like 400 hertz, you know, like, unless you're trying to design a sound that fundamental starting pitch is there, you know, I kind of like to play the octave below or even 2 below, because 2 below is kind of more the bassy range, and then an octave below this range, which is, where are we here? 152. That's like that's good for like if you want to hold down some big chords and get a really warm sound. And then if you shift it down arrow again, that's when you're getting your bass. And now we're at D1. And to be honest, if you were to shift it down again, oh no, is something going to break? Actually, it doesn't allow you to do it, but just to illustrate the effect. And if you didn't want to use this semitone adjuster, if you just went to MIDI effects, boy, I must see, now you know I'm not lying about 10 years. Like I haven't played around with Ableton since like early January, and it's like the middle of February, and like I'm either I was supposed to come in here and teach today, or like, I mean, I don't want to jinx myself and say I'm not skipping a beat, but if you wanted to put it down and you didn't want to use a semi, you can just throw this MIDI effect pitch, and I'll just give you an example. Even though you'll say that sounds good, this note right here, this 36 hertz, you're really not hearing it. You're hearing more of the harmonics. So yeah, I probably would keep it here, but maybe you need it that lower. You know, maybe you want to play like a E note. So like so anyways, whatever. So, and then you got this sub here, but we're going to be playing pretty subby. I think I'm going to go back to this range, because if we kept it at the normal one. So that's honestly one of my biggest sound design tips for y'all. Damn, I think I'm going to run out of water, and I'm so dried out that I have to keep drinking water. I goof that one up. So that's a big tip. The tip is if you open up a patch, now you might be like, oh, this sounds so bad. I don't want square wave. Get to all these juicy ones. I want to know what the beating means, you know? Sometimes I feel like life is giving me a beating. Hey, smush it like... You know, doesn't that sound like all of those songs from back in the day? They were all like disco-y. What is that, like French house? I don't know about like electronic dance music. That's like EDM's not really my thing. But yeah, that reminded me of it. So basically, if you open it up, and it doesn't matter what it is, this one actually sounds great. So I'm like, I wonder if I can know this good enough where I can know what a lot of these sound like. Let's see, does B3 sounds good? Yeah, kind of crazy. So anyways, the first thing is if you open it up, regardless of what octave range you're playing in, if you don't like the sound, just adjust the semitones. Let's go up another octave. And maybe you need that. I kind of like this range, unless I know it's the bass, because otherwise you're just missing out, you know what I mean? And I like to fill, but see, if you go that low and you start playing chords, which is what I'm doing right now, then it gets muddy. So we're gonna stick here. So always adjust that. And then what you do with this wavetable, and I wanna illustrate this with just one note. And again, remember we have this filter frequency turned down here. So if we want more highs, now it gets really bright. So that's why you always want that filter frequency. And that's why you actually also want it very bright. Why? Not because you need all of these, but because if I want to make this like a punchy, stabby sound, envelopes, okay? So right now this is assigned to nothing. We put this envelope on here. And if we come back in the matrix, what was that, envelope 2? We come back into, and you should probably escape the matrix. What were we just doing? Filter one frequency. If you don't see that, click on it and then add, start throwing it up. So that's when you would be getting that, and you put it back at 0. We don't need that. And if you wanted that sound, well, that's just using an LFO on the frequency. No surprise there. So you'll come into here, choose a rate, and then go back to the matrix, and then add it to what? Filter frequency. Where are you? Well, I mean, why they would get rid of, you know, I don't know why I need to re-click frequency. I mean, that's, you're always mapping the frequency to an envelope to an alpha, but whatever, let them slide. We really like Ableton, okay? So of course, what would you do? Well, now you come to filter frequency, you come to LFO, you go down the matrix and start adding it. So without... So believe it or not, it's moving it like 11% of the way from like where this is. That's a little bit too bright for me, so I think I'm going to move it down. And it's moving maybe too quick. Yeah, so it's just good to have movement, so it's not like, it's good to have movement, so it's not like static. So yeah, that's something. So anyways, moving along here, that's what you do in subtractive synthesis. You use this filter frequency to subtract and add frequencies, and you want your sound to be very bright. So if you come back into our basics and go back to that one we started with, this one will sound good on this square wave and this saw wave and then this hybrid square saw. And if that sounded good when I played and moved, well, that's kind of now the holy grail of wavetable synthesis, is that you can play through. In fact, I actually kind of like how that sounds. I'm going to open up this a little bit. Maybe I'll do 555 because we're going to the 5D, the fifth dimensional consciousness frequency. You probably knew that. All right, let's keep going. LFO, let's do a little bit here. Now position. Sounds good. You can even go in a negative direction if maybe it just for whatever reason sounds better going negative. So LFO1, and this is another important thing to know, this little R, which if you didn't know that was retrigger, well, don't think that there's a million of these hidden. Retrigger, you will see that little R on a lot of like parameters in these synthesizers. So if you notice, retrigger means each time you hit the note, so like imagine this is the start of the note right here. Each time you hit the note, start at this point, go up, then down, then up, depending on like these parameters. So if we were to go in a negative version, imagine if we like were to go down like that. So right now we've got retrigger on. So each time we hit a new note, we want it to stay at the same amount. So like this 555 frequency, we should see it move to the right because it's moving up. Let's take a look at that. Moving up. Right, and then what did we do in the matrix? Well, oscillator 1 position is negative, so that means it's probably going down, I would have to think. So let's take a look at this now. And I like the way that sounds, and maybe +7. I don't even want to change it because I like the way this sounds. Maybe move that up. I don't know, 8 or -8. I like it. It's like judging. Let's see here. Another thing as well is this is like a filter drive. Basically, just gives you a unique distortion based on whichever, I guess, saturation algorithm that you choose, and you have to give it you actually do get an effect even if the drive is at 0 because it does like color it. Like these filters were in different synthesizers, and now they just build them in where, you know, there's unique characteristics of these filters that like give it extra harmonics, which gives it more of like a warmer tone. And so Ableton added these in a while ago. So take a listen. We don't maybe need it, to be honest with you, but I'll just give it a little bit, 333, because we're coming out of the third dimensional consciousness. So what else to do? Well, to be honest with you, I don't really want to do anything else. I really like the way this sounds. Now we can go in here in oscillator 2 and now add like, I don't know, some other one. And, you know, we can turn this volume down and then add it up. I don't know. Does that actually change oscillator 1's position? You know, it does. Yes. So like, look. So like, obviously, if you know, we'll keep this one up high. Go to oscillator 2. Now you don't have to do that, but I don't think I really ever talked much about oscillator 2 because, like, for me, previous to thinking that I was starting to not know, I wasn't as good as Wavetable as I thought. I was never messing around with oscillator 2 because you really don't. In fact, I think a good way to use it is if you wanted to like just have a sub oscillator, just sub on one of these and then more of your brighter stuff on the other ones. I think that's when you would want to mess around with that a little bit more. I just wanted to go over because I'm like, I don't think I've ever gone over the oscillator 2. I figured it was kind of self-explanatory, but like, to be honest, like, I think you would want to mess with that more when you're trying to create like a big pad, you know, like this big like evolving sound, because it's just giving you more oscillating movement. But as we'll see, there's so many ways to modulate your sound that you can fall under the prey of, I don't even know if that's the right word. You can fall under the prey of, we'll just use it. You can fall under the prey of like look at this matrix. Like, you could just keep adding LFOs to like everything. Like, you can keep going down. You can modulate anything, even these crazy weird ones. I think these are called the warping algorithms, which is just a way to further warp this. And then of course, because like a big thing with sound design, especially if you're playing more legato notes, like sounds that you hold down, you want there to be movement. But when you have all of these capabilities, especially this unison mode, gets to the point where it just starts sounding like goo, like it's just all gooing together, and you're just like, what? It's just like, it's like too much, kind of, you know. Like that's why I think I was like using Wavetable in a way where I'm like, I will know all of your secrets, and then I was less making good music and more like trying to max out all the features, and then that's when sound design became too much sound design and not that much fun music. So what I would also recommend, because I'm assuming you guys are not just here to design sounds, what I would recommend is, you know, if you want to work on Ableton, your set and schedule, maybe one night is sound design, the next night might be, you know, trying to play a melody or play down some beats, and then maybe try to get some other sounds on top of it. And then another night might be like, oh, I've got a collection of sounds, let's start getting it on the timeline. And then another one might be like, this thing is almost finished, let's mix it, let's polish it up and get it to like the final stages. So let's click back on oscillator 1. And so I'm going to stick on these basic shapes because I want to illustrate this thing down here, which you don't have to do. You've got these like warping algorithms, and like if you go to FM, you can, when I watch it. And so of course you could come over here and it's like, okay, let's oscillator 1 amount, because we clicked it, it's down here. Let's go to LFO 2. So if you like that kind of a sound, you would probably want to do that. Ultimately, these are all just going to give you different tones, and you can play with them until it sounds good. You're like, oh, I like it there. And it's like, okay, well, now you have the ability to modulate it. So like Wavetable synthesis is really great if you want like sounds, because there's really only two kind. That's another sound design tip that I really think is important, is if you really think about it, there's really only two kinds of sounds. A sound that like you play it and it plays, which is legato, or it's more of a staccato sound. You know, it's like a sound that'd be like, it's like more melodious. You might play a lot of the notes together, like, you know what I mean? Now again, you can be like, hey, you know, I design sounds where I can play it like that, and I can play them either staccato or legato. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, you know, I mean, you can design it any way you want, but if you really boil it down, I think this might help for people to know. It kind of condenses the playbook here. And by the way, so if you didn't want to, we could still take advantage of it by going to, let's see, envelope 2 and amount and assigning an envelope. And I'm going to just turn this off of... So hear that? And if you didn't have that, let's give it a negative. So when you have, so we've got these envelopes and we've got these LFOs. Now, if we've got the staccato sounds, you know, the short ones. Wow, I actually really like the sound of that. That would sound really good with some unison mode, because it kind of sounds like a chorus, and I want a chorus, but I'm like, why don't we just keep it in-house in Wavetable? And if it doesn't sound like a chorus, then I haven't used this program in a while, so give me a break. Kind of does. Kind of like phasery, chorusy. Yeah, we're going to have to duplicate this track. Click it, Command D for duplicate, which I haven't used a PC in so long, so I can't remember, and I haven't. So I'm going to close this down. If I push Command Option L, I will minimize that, which I believe you can also do here. Unrecord it, record this one. I really like the sound of this. I don't want to mess with it anymore. But I do want to come over here, and I'm going to click this little weird like recycling button. It's Ableton reminding us to recycle. Thank you, Ableton. Click it, push return. Now you got the default. Now, if you're not going to like anything, And you better like that tip, because that's like a really good tip. Or it's not a good tip at all, and it's like, yeah, just delete. Double click. Oh, gotta change the color. Yeah, that's kind of too bright. Let's, yeah. So what's unique, before we get off of these warping modes down here, if I go to FM, and this is just the sine wave, you get you now have the classic FM sound. I think it's amount. Semi, take it down an octave. Again. And let's adjust. Now, if you play with the tune, it's going to take it out of pitch. I'm almost positive. See? So yeah, if you want to do that, but I want it to not be like that. But that's like a really cool sound that you get in like FM. So again, like, what do? You modulate it, you know, especially if you're playing a legato type sound. Like, I like that. So I would make the LFO do that, but I'm not going to do that because, yeah, I mostly service the legato sounds, but I realize I'm doing a disservice to other people. So let's go to envelope 2. Let's give it a short envelope because I wanted to go like up and then down. And I want to swoop from, like, let's say a higher amount to a lower amount, which it should illustrate that. But in order for it to do it, we have to go to matrix, envelope 2, all the way down. And so like you would just play with this until it sounded good. And it sounds good. I want to keep going, but now you do another one. What's classic? I don't know what classic is. Let's just click on it. Yeah. It's wonderful. And you got pulse width? I'm on nothing, by the way. See, that's why I'm trying to stop drinking the beers. And I also like to drink the coffee during the day, but like I like get buzzed on it, and that's not the best way to do it because I actually have a whole lot of energy and I can like accomplish so much more when I'm not like depleting my energy with all of that. But I'm not giving any life advice. I'm just saying I'm gonna be experimenting that cheers. Oh man, I feel very content. And to be honest with you, you don't have to use this at all, so don't even worry about it. But yeah, we kind of covered all of this. If you were playing higher up or something, or maybe you were playing, this is random one called Collection. It's got all these like random names. They're really good. I like this amber one a lot, but I want to push myself. Let's see Violet. Violet's a great color. Especially like if you know about that violet flame. Oi. Now you might be like, and I'm gonna lower some of this frequency. And you might be like, oh, it sounds like too high for me. That would sound good, right? Now, so if we start down here, and let's go envelope 3 because we're already using envelope 2. I don't know if it's even assigned, but let's just use envelope 3 because we got it. I don't know, let's try it this way, and if it doesn't shoot it up this way, then we'll just add a negative amount, and then it should do that. So where are we? Boy, I'm even getting lost here. Where the heck are we? Oh, oscillator 1 position. Oscillator. This one should always just be on. You always get amp, pitch, and oscillator 1 position. So let's move it up and see if it does what we want. And just... Oh. ESP coming in. Someone said, well, how do I get MIDI velocity? Well, you would come into MIDI, and for velocity, hold on, what do we want to with velocity? Envelope amount? Let's try envelope amount. Is that what we want? Envelope amount for the velocity? Envelope. Does that do it? No, I think you got to just do oscillator one position, because that's what this is. It's oscillator one position. So let's, well, we're not going to get velocity because I'm playing the keyboard, but why don't we just assign it? And I think in this program, sometimes like under velocity, you get like a 0 to 100 value. And a lot of times if you do like 10 or 15 or something, it's like very extreme. But I think this one you actually really have to crank. I don't know, it's just sensitive that way. And so a great way to get velocity if you're playing a thing that doesn't have velocity, like your keyboard, is you go to MIDI effects and you, not max for live, you go to MIDI effects and you drop velocity. And I like to put it on fixed. And like set a good, like a one you want, and then start adding randoms. The only problem with that is you just get random velocities, so it's kind of good for just getting subtle variations. But anyways, I just wanted to cover that because there's times where I've covered wavetables so many times. It should be in the title. Like the majority of the SDHOs kind of tell you what we're covering, but I don't think I really got into this section very much. I'm just gonna, I don't know, put something small. Well, we got rid of the velocity one and I don't really care for it. You don't have to worry too much about velocity if you're playing more legato sounds. So like long sustained sounds, like if you're like have like a bunch of chords that play for like 4 bars, 8 bars, velocity is pretty much useless because like you don't want to like, unless you want this, but like you don't just like play a chord every 8 bars and then the next chord is like really quiet. You know what I mean? Like if you want it to be like this, I mean, if you needed that, you would probably just use a different technique to just lower the volume if like you needed it to go down. But velocity is more when you're doing staccato sounds. So I just wanted to mention that. MPE, I'll go over very quickly because I'm no expert at it. And to be honest, I mean, I guess it might be good for me to play around with it more. MPE is basically like, you know, those rolly boards or whatever. I can't even remember what it's called. But you know, you can play and like slide around, you know what I mean? It's like the newest iteration of like MIDI playability technology. And so basically what it's allowing you to do is like, you can like play notes and like a lot of times if you go up, like it'll raise the filter frequency down, lower the filter frequency. But when you're playing these notes, you can then also drag, and when you drag to the right, you're like raising the pitch, but you're raising the pitch of multiple at one time. And that's kind of like the crazy thing is because before this, in just the MIDI realm, you know, if you do a pitch bend, like you're pitch bending the whole thing, right? Like you're not pitch bending the individual notes. Now, if you've got more of like a staccato, it's kind of like better for chords. If you've got like a staccato thing, you can go in and be like, okay, this note, I want the pitch to do this for this one, and then this note, I do this one. But if you've got chords, you know, you can only pitch shift it up or pitch shift it down. You can't say, I want like note A of this A minor chord to pitch shift up and then rest on this note, and then because you're playing at the same time, and then the next note, the C, I want it to go down and then go up. And so it just allows you to do a thing that you just couldn't do before. And there was probably sound design renegades, which are probably the people who made that like C board. Was it Rolly C? There's probably like 1 million of these now by like a bunch of different companies. I've been just getting more into just using Ableton and sound design, but yeah, so very cool. So if you even just learn that, and then you would just do it like that, route them. So we've covered all these things. Really the only thing left is if you need it to be monophonic, you would switch it on here. If you wanted to glide, you know, you can. So if you're trying to do that and you don't have poly, or excuse me, if you don't have mono, it's just not gonna, you're just not gonna do it because you just won't even be able to. Poly, I would just leave it on 8 unless like your computer can't handle it. There's really no reason why not to. That means like you can play 8 notes at the same time if you wanted. And then we got these unison modes, and to be honest with you, you can dial up sounds in here. Let's see what squash sounds like. Let's give it extra envelope. Let's go to the matrix where let's give it extra envelope because I feel like it's because like, so see how this is like a sine wave, and then like we're getting like these more harmonics of whatever the hell this is. I want it to go like really high up because I think these are going to be really bright. Yeah, so I want it to like reach up here and then snap down. Let's like put 90. So you can just play. It's awesome. It's like sounds all scoopy loopy. So basically you could never make sounds like this prior to like wavetable synthesis being a thing because like these are like very, very tiny waveforms. So you see when I go up here, it looks different. It's like, this is, I don't know, that could maybe be like 5 milliseconds. I don't know, like interesting to know. But what's cool about wavetable synthesis is the reason why it sounds good and in pitch, and I'm gonna turn this off for a second. The reason why it sounds tonal is because each one of these is the same note. So it's different harmonic makeup. So like it's different harmonic, like so E, but these change. Like look at the harmonics change. So you might be like, oh, let's get an LFO and go like really fast and very small because we don't want it to move a whole lot. Where is that oscillator in position? And see this sub over here? If you're like, hey, I'm missing sub, because sometimes you'll mess around with these and you'll be like, I totally lost so much low end. You turn on sub and then listen. Let's turn the gain off. You got to make sure you're in this right octave though. See, now we got bass. And tone if you want to just grid it up a little bit more. But sometimes I notice when you do tone, because the tone isn't oscillating, you hear this kind of like tone, but like it's not moving. So it's almost like it kind of kills the illusion that it's like one like big thing altogether. So sometimes I just see if it works, but you can also still go into tone. I mean, look, subtone, and then you can add this same amount. So that's cool. I think we've covered everything here. I'm really happy with this. If you for some reason don't want to look at it look this way, you can look how it would look if you were like, I guess, looking at it in more of a circuitous fashion. And then the last thing, this unison. Unison mode, I mean, basically what it does, like some of them, like some of these ones, like random node or noise, like it's going to have more of like a noise, random unpredictability effect. But for the most part, like unison, what does unison mean? It means kind of like multiple. It was like a feature I think they had in like subtractive synthesizers, where like you could just like widen the sound by basically like taking the waveform and like duplicating it and then like playing them off each other. I think the most basic one is classic, and I come to this section because sometimes this happens when you're designing sounds. It sounds good, you like it, but it sounds a little too flat, like you need width, you know, and then you'll normally reach for like a delay, a chorus. But now, remember I said earlier, I was like, oh, I want a chorus, but because this is like the Wavetable show, which think about that, guys, we haven't used any audio effects. We got all these amazing sounds just in Wavetable, and like that's when you know you're getting somewhere with sound design. So smash a like, subscribe, purchase an NFT. There's multiple options. You can either pay a little bit more and like own the one-of-one artwork, or there's other ones where I minted like 25 and it's like greatly reduced. So like you and then 25 other people could also own it, or just purchase all 25. That would be so funny. And it's on Polygon, so there's not going to be any gas fee. And if you think I should have minted it on like Solana or something, let me know, because I know sometimes it can get a little confusing with like Polygon, because you're like, well, I've got the Ethereum, I need to bridge it over. But a lot of crypto exchanges, like, they have native Polygon, and the reason why you wouldn't do Ethereum is because of gas fees. So you like buy an NFT and it can cost like $20, and it's just like because of the network congestion. So like Polygon's a layer 2, and that handles that for you. And I think a lot of exchanges like Coinbase, they've got native Polygon, so you'd get. Anyways, I don't want to go off too much, but anyways, back to Unison. If you have a sound and you think it sounds good, but a little bit too like mono, like too one-dimensional. And again, you might not need it. Like a lot of times I find out that these things are just built and like it just adds too much. So I'm going to take the amount down, play it, and then move it up and see if it sounds good or not. And again, you can modulate that. So if I put it at 0, oh, yeah, see, this needed it. And then you can just click through. Does this? Yeah, it just sounds absolutely amazing. That was amazing, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'd like to think if you were someone who, and now I have to tell you this. Well, you can boost the filter cutoff with some resonance. That might give you a unique sound. I was like, I must cover everything. Oh, and then you can add a second filter. I like to add a notch filter because I pretty much always keep it on low pass. But rather than, rather than serial, I like to do parallel. And then let's move this second one. So then you can have this going on. Definitely it needs some filter drive. Yeah, and then you can just like... I like where it sounds there. I like it a lot more when it's in this mode, which basically says just have two filters doing their own thing. I'm not really sure what parallel does, because it looks like it's like the same thing. Or split, excuse me. I mean, this is cool too. It's basically doing the same thing, because this one is like locked here. It should be the same thing. No, because it cuts out the, see? Because maybe you don't want those highs. In fact, what I was going to do before I just got that idea, because I didn't know I wanted it to move around in this area, oftentimes, because this is letting through all of these. It's happening in parallel. It's saying, take this sound, run it through, I don't like that view, run it through this first filter frequency, and then take this sound and then also run it through this second filter, but like, don't intermingle them. Is that the right word? I don't know. Whereas if you then went to serial, it's basically like, you know, this one can't like overlap it, or it just won't exist. And then it cuts out these higher ones for you, which you would get. But you could also, oh no, we probably even shouldn't do this. Hopefully it's not bad luck. Oh no. No, I'm nervous. Whatever. Where's auto filter? See, I haven't like, and then you can just sculpt it, and then you can have that. So you can do either of those, and then even add more distortion, beef it up. So that's cool. Maybe I want that for later. All right. So yeah, we covered really everything. Unless we didn't. I don't know. I guess you can change all of them at all of these different ones at the same time through this global time parameter. That might be something to take a look at. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. Actually, no, there is one other thing. If you just go into any sort of audio sample, like this is the sound of a lake, you can just drop your own samples in here. I don't even know what this is going to sound with. Like, can they really make it where every single one we go to is in pitch? How do we... This is like a sound of like a lake. Notice how it's like these are staying. Yeah, maybe you don't want to do a whole lot of that with it because it's unpredictable. Because literally that's like, it's just like a lake. Like, this is what this actually is. Like, I mean... Wonderful, wonderful. It all recorded! You know what to do if you enjoyed this. You knew this was a great hour packed in. You were meant to see this because who else would watch all of this? We've got such short attention spans these days. People are like, oh no, what happened? Oh no, what could... Well, because there was no loop, and you can't loop unless you warp. Thank you, that was awesome. I don't know if I'm gonna all of a sudden wake up tomorrow or the next day and know what the next thing's gonna be, but like something in me was like, I honestly don't even care if I suck at Wavetable because I want to explain it and I want to talk about it, and so I knew I just had to come on here and do it. Thank y'all.